And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
You are listening to the Patriot Pastors Podcast, where we talk about today's issues from a pastor's perspective, as well as calling America back to the faith of our fathers.
Without God, democracy will not and cannot long endure. We ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Here's your host, Wade Lentz and Harold Smith.
Welcome to the Patriot Pastors Podcast. I'm Pastor Harold Smith, joined with my favorite co-host, Wade Lentz, and I feel like I need to sing the Welcome Back Kotter theme song because we've been gone for 2 months, Wade. It's sure good to see you.
It's crazy. You know what the song that comes to mind? Reunited and it feels so good.
Yes. You know,
I can't believe I just sang that song on our podcast.
Well, you're a singer, Wade. I used to say, you know, I don't have a face for TV and I don't have a voice for radio. I mean, I got nothing.
Oh, man. Yes, we have had a long sabbatical since we have done this podcast for about 2.5 years. We have never gone, just nearly 2 months without recording an episode, but we have had so much going on in our lives, and the podcast episodes are at a lower level of priority, you could say. But you've been sick, and actually we were going to record a couple of episodes when you were preaching a revival here close to me, but you came down with what I call the canine sickness because you were sick as a dog, son.
I had food poisoning, and the sad thing is you were down the hall in your office. I was staying at Beryl in the prophet's chamber, but I was on the toilet with a trash can. You were down there in an elders meeting, and the plan was to get together and have have a couple episodes recorded while we were in the same room, but that was not what the Lord intended for us to do.
No,
I ended up preaching that revival there in Plummerville with Lonnie Edwards. But I missed Sunday night because I told him we had kind of a change of plans. My wife was going to come. Then she decided she wasn't. She had some stuff to do. And I said, well, don't change my motel reservation. I'll just stay at Beryl. Wade and I record a podcast. Then when I started getting sick right after the morning service, I was like, I'll just go down there and rest. And, everything will be okay. Yeah. Y'all were having like dinner on the grounds or something. And I showed up, the parking lot was full. There was kids running up and down the hallway. And I was like, I don't really need to see anybody. I just need to be. And so I was in my little area, my little room I was staying in, and I was trying to be quiet and, not disturb anybody. And then y'all could hear me sick down the hallway.
Yes.
In your office. And so
bless your heart.
Oh, it's bad.
You were very, very ill. And so what we did to that room was we just burned it.
Yeah.
Burned it down and started over.
When you're that kind of sick and you're away from home, you don't have your wife to help. Like if something needs, can you bring me this or bring me that? And then I was like, don't make a mess in here. Just keep this place spotless clean.
Yeah, because your wife's not here to clean it up.
Yeah. And I was sleeping on the couch because I was like, I don't even want to go back in that bedroom. I'll just sleep on the couch and be closer to the bathroom. And then when I was packing all my stuff up to leave the next morning, I felt like my sickness was over, but I was so drained. And I remember just having a can of Lysol, spraying that room down. I was like, try to kill everything that could possibly live in here.
Yeah.
And then trying to get through that revival. I mean, I was so weak after that. I had no energy. I felt bad for the people that I was preaching to. They didn't really realize how sick I was. The Lord would give me enough energy to preach, but as soon as the service was over and everybody went home, I mean, I could barely get to my room.
Right.
Then the next week, I got like the worst allergy sinus attack I've had in years. My wife was trying to tell me it was COVID, but I don't think it was COVID. I think it was just my normal eyes water and sinus pressure. And that lasted a week. And man, it was just like sickness after sickness after sickness. And then I was trying to preach in all these conferences that I was gone to on the weekends. And then during that same time, I was elected as the interim pastor, the First Baptist Church of Roland. So I'm trying to juggle this new pastorate and the preaching commitments I've already made, and trying not, to get over this illness. And the podcast was the last thing on my mind, and I felt bad. But then I talked to you, and you're doing your seminary finals to wrap up, and you were like, "No, it's good. I
needed this off the plate, and so sometimes sabbaticals on low priority things, it's good and it's healthy to do, and hated that your sickness kind of spurned that. But anyway, the bad thing is that we lost a lot of sponsors.
No.
Man, that Dandy Blend, whatever.
The Dandy Blend, get all your dandelion in a cup. I don't remember what
tea. What was it? Some kind of tea?
Yeah, it had dandelion root and all kinds of other stuff. I mean, I drank some. I started scratching behind my ear with my back foot. I mean, it gave me all kinds of special power.
So hopefully we get back in the scheme of things, and we'll get our sponsors back, like Remington Arms and Winchester, all those big guys.
I'm running low on ammo, if anybody asks.
Right.
And I only have one gun left, so I could really use.
You're lying now, right?
I could really use a firearm and ammunition sponsor for the podcast.
Oh man. Well, I tell you what, our last podcast episode was on Christian nationalism, and you and I both, we had to kind of learn what that was. We had never heard of it, and that was one of our most listened to, downloaded podcasts that we ever recorded.
Really?
Yes.
And we stirred a national debate and a statement on our podcast. It all stemmed with us.
It stemmed with us. Yes. Patriot Pastors Podcast. Troublemakers. But anyway, a lot has been talked about Christian nationalism since then, and a greater definition, because the way we found and defined Christian nationalism is not what the guys who just recently formed a statement concerning Christian nationalism talks about. So we saw and defined it as dominionism, or the seven mountain theology, system that is taken out of Revelation chapter 10 or something, which is that definition of Christian nationalism we certainly denounced. And but reading this statement that was just recently put out on May the 1st, and I will say I did not read it carefully, but what I did read, I don't see any issues with it. And
let me explain it like this. I think understanding Christian nationalism is kind of like understanding dispensationalism.
Yeah.
You got the John Hagee blood moon dispensationalist, and then you've got the John MacArthur, more biblically sound version of dispensationalism.
Yes.
And I think when it comes to Christian nationalism, you're going to have a wide array of definitions depending on who's defining the terms.
Yes, that's a very good point.
I think what I'm seeing, and I haven't read the statement myself, and I'm so tired of signing statements. People ask for me my autographs all the time, and I won't sign it unless it's a King James Bible. So I can't believe I've said that. But I mean, I'm really just, it almost is like every time I turn around, we've got a statement on social justice warriors. We've got a statement on inerrancy. We've got a statement on this and that. And I'm just tired of statements, man. I mean, sometimes, Wade, I feel like if you're not real active on social media, you don't know what to be mad about. You don't know what the arguments are. Like if you don't get on Twitter for a week or two, and then you get on Twitter, you're like, oh my, what's happened? And some people were talking about something one time, and I said, what's going on? And they said, they're using leftist politics to attack someone. And I said, oh, that sounds serious,
Right.
And my point was, who cares? What do you think leftist politicians do? And I think, and I'm not trying to downplay Christian nationalism, but I don't think it's as forefront as, I don't think most of the people in your church or mine are even having this conversation. What do you think, Wade?
No, I agree. And sadly, it's kind of turned into a little internal conflict between believers in Christ. And this is not the time to be bickering and arguing about such things when we're literally, our country's seeing the flames of hell right now before our eyes. And here we are bickering about such things. And G3 is upset that the format, the font, and the colors used that this statement was formulated, they're saying, hey, that was kind of plagiarism. That was, you adopted it from us, and you should have asked our permission. And
but were the writers Southern Baptists? Because plagiarism is rank among Southern Baptist preachers.
True, that's right. Ed Linton, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but
they teach
anyway.
that in seminary. I mean, you don't know this, Wade. You're not going to a Southern Baptist seminary, but I think they teach plagiarism in Southern seminaries.
Yeah, how to plagiarize and not get caught. Yeah. So anyway, Dr. Scott Anall, he wrote a very in-depth article about Christian nationalism and its differences from what he believes. And of course, he's a part of the G3. I just watched this morning a YouTube video that was produced by Canon Press with James White and Doug Wilson, and they pretty much outlined their belief in what Christendom looks like and what Christian nationalism could look like. I thought it was very informative. And again, going back to that statement that was just released, I don't see a whole lot at the outset of things that I would disagree with.
Yeah.
So the episode that we recorded prior to this one is a total different definition of what this is. Let me just really quickly read you the definition according to this latest statement here. Christian nationalism is a set of governing principles rooted in Scripture's teaching on Christ's rule as a supreme Lord and King of all creation, who has ordained civil magistrates with delegated authority to be under him, over the people, to order their ordained jurisdiction by punishing evil and promoting good for his own glory and the common good of the nation. And then it lists about 10 different scripture references to back up that definition. I don't see anything wrong with that definition there. So anyway, but if, here's the thing: if they're not bickering over Christian nationalism, there's going to be bickering over something, right?
Well, yeah, I think in our day, some Christians don't know how to do anything but fight. They don't know how to do anything but argue. And a lot of times they're arguing with people in the church. And then when everything settles down in the church, they argue with the church next door. And it seems like that's kind of where we are. I've just learned, and I'm a unique guy in that I fellowship in a lot of circles, all of them, just about all of them Baptist, but I have Baptists that come in all different flavors, and close Baptist friends in every circle. And I've just consigned that as long as you're not a heretic, I really don't care if you're a Christian nationalist or you believe Israel's coming back, you believe it ain't coming back, you believe in a literal thousand, symbolic thousand. It doesn't matter to me, you know.
Yeah.
I'm through trying to fit in some mold. I'm through arguing over secondary issues.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, speaking about bickering and arguing, next month, 2023 Southern Baptist Convention is going to be held in New Orleans. And I would imagine there's going to be a lot of bickering.
Wade, that's
and
out of
arguing
order.
There.
You're out of order.
Mute my mic. Yeah.
Turn off the mic too.
Off.
That seems like that's all they do at the Southern Baptist Convention. Somebody with some common sense gets up and says what everybody's thinking, and the parliamentarians step in and go, out of order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unless you're Rick Warren, who can just come to the floor.
Give that man a microphone. Let him say whatever
turn
he
it
wants,
on.
as long as
turn
he
the spotlight on him. You know, that's what happened last year in Anaheim. I mean, he just totally took over.
He trained every pastor in America.
That's right. He trained the guys on the platform, you know. But anyway, he is planning on, you know, most of you know that Saddleback Church was excommunicated, I guess you could say. Was it by the executive board?
I think it was by, I want to say it was like credentials committee or something like that. I can't think of the proper term.
Some committee within the convention voted to excommunicate Saddleback Church due to their women pastors.
Which just took them 2 years in a study of what a pastor is.
Yeah, right.
I mean, remember, what is a pastor?
Sure.
And so they batted this down the road for 2 years to make a decision.
Yeah, and they finally do, and they make the right decision. Excommunicate Saddleback Church. Well,
disfellowship is the right word.
Yes, disfellowship, correct. And that did not sit well with Rick Warren at all. And so word is, and I have not seen anything specifically from him, but word is that he is going to be at New Orleans, and he is going to call for a motion from the floor that the messengers would rescind that credentials committee vote and reinstate the fellowship back to Saddle Creek into the SBC.
Saddleback.
What'd I say? Saddle Creek?
Yeah. As long as you didn't say
that's
Brokeback.
a subdivision right behind our church at Saddle Creek. So
as long as you didn't say Brokeback Mountain.
Right.
That's another
issue. I don't want to say that. But so he is trying to get a motion from the floor, and there is going to be a vote from the messengers themselves. And this is, to me, very key, because now you're hearing from the people who attend this meeting. This is a decision not made just by a handful of people on a committee. This is from the voice of the SBC. And if they vote to allow Saddleback Church into fellowship, then my goodness, all the guys who are struggling in the SBC now, who are just bickering and arguing, what more why are you going to stay if they vote this church back in?
Yeah. Here's the real question. So if they vote Rick Warren's church back in, and then they're back in fellowship, guess what? Rick Warren could run for president of the Southern Baptist Convention then.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the vote is prior to nominations for president or after. Because I think you'd shared it on Twitter. Rick Warren was saying, hey, if you're Southern Baptist pastor and we're not following each other, shoot me a request or whatever, I'll follow you back. And I'm like, you follow me, I'll follow you back. That's usually the weirdos on Twitter that are trying to build an audience. Is Rick Warren really interested in what the pastor with 50 people think on Twitter?
No.
I mean, this is like, what is this, a bot? I mean, who says this kind of stuff,
Right. Rick Warren.
His motivation?
Yeah, he is trying to build, support from the common pastor who may be in New Orleans, to first of all vote him in at reinstate his church into fellowship. But yeah, I mean, there's possibility that he could throw his name in the hat. I don't know the rules on that, but
out of order.
Yeah, it's what it should be.
The thing about it is, he claimed to train like 2 million pastors. Why are they not already following him if he's such a trainer of pastors?
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
Oh, man, I'm so sick of him.
Man,
there's like certain people that just seem to get in the media and they just grate on your nerves.
Yeah.
And it's like the media loves them and they just keep them hanging around. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
we know Harold don't like this guy, so we're going to put him in at prime time tonight. And I really think that's the reason I quit watching network news and I quit watching television in general, is there were just so many people that it seems like Hollywood is fascinated with that I can't stand. And when it comes to the religious world, there's a fascination with just wackos.
Yeah.
You know? And I would put Rick Warren in that category.
Yeah. I mean, there is no greater fan of Rick Warren than Rick Warren. And he will tell you that, but another thing going on at the SBC is our mutual friend, Mike Stone, who ran 2 years ago in the Nashville convention, is going to put his name in the hat again, which I was shocked. I think you knew a little bit ahead of time before I did, but of all the things that he went through that first time in Nashville, I mean, I can't even get into all the lying and the,
not him lying, lies about him.
Yes, exactly.
Even
he was a target.
Even a woman staged, a Mike offended me thing. And of course, security footage, all that's available. None of it happened. I mean, literally nothing happened. And to be treated that way, I would have came home and said, church, not only did I lose in a very, very narrow margin, no one in this convention stood by me while I was being ostracized and mistreated and wrongly, accused. And I mean, I wouldn't have a thing in the world to do with the Southern Baptist Convention.
Right.
After the way Mike was treated.
Yeah, I know. But it's hard to beat an incumbent. And here, Bart Barber this is going to be his second term, and it's very difficult to beat an incumbent. And Bart is what I would say a middle of the roader. He is not going to make the conservatives mad.
Our friend Eddie Ragsdale calls him vanilla ice cream.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not really what you want, but it's not bad. It's vanilla ice cream.
Exactly. And two, Mike he's not been campaigning, to my knowledge, like he did in I think 2021, something like that.
I call Mike a friend, so I'm biased, but I believe Mike Stone is the best candidate that you could have for president of the Southern Baptist Convention. He is a tremendous preacher. He pastors a large church in rural Georgia. I mean, and he's done a tremendous job. He has leadership skills. He's well spoken. He is good on the fly. I mean, you want to talk about an ambassador for the convention? I don't think the Southern Baptists could do better than picking Mike Stone.
I agree.
But if you win that, let's say Mike goes to New Orleans and conservatives rise up and get behind him. The uphill battle I see for Mike is this: most of the conservatives I knew that went to New Orleans and voted for, or to Nashville and voted for him, are no longer in the convention.
Right.
I know of a dozen pastors. So I know of a dozen churches that either no longer fund the convention or have formally pulled out of the convention since Nashville and since Anaheim. And so that's just my little circle.
Sure.
But if you look across the landscape, it was a close race against
very close.
Ed Litton. But if you lose that many conservative, Southern Baptists that could vote for you, to me, it's just like I see conservatives leaving, and I
Mhm.
see the more progressive side of the convention getting stronger.
Yes.
And if, like you pointed out earlier, Wade, if they let Saddleback back in and they embrace Rick Warren again after all he's done, and they're ordaining, they have co-pastors, a husband and wife lead pastor team. They have at least three women ordained as elders on staff at Saddleback. If you allow them back in, and then you have the greatest conservative, I mean, he has served as executive of the or chairman of the executive committee. He's literally
Mhm.
held nearly all offices except president.
Right.
And if you reject that candidate twice and then reinstate Saddleback by popular vote, I think you have to write Ichabod on the door. Wait, I
Yeah.
don't see any coming back for the convention if these two things,
Yeah.
coincide.
Oh, it's I really hope that the Southern Baptist Convention does not, have the Saddleback Church. I can't think, man.
Reinstated.
Saddleback, right?
Yeah, Saddleback does
Yeah.
not get
Okay.
reinstated as
Yes.
being in fellowship with the convention.
Yes. I hope that does not happen because, man, that sets precedent to all kinds of other SBC churches that are on the fence on the matter.
Yeah.
And it just sets a horrible trajectory for other Baptist churches, even those who are not within the SBC, that there's a national affirmation of this.
Well,
And
I saw a pastor from Richmond, Virginia, I believe. Not Richmond. I can't think. It's Arlington, Virginia, I think. He's near Washington, D.C., but he's on the Virginia side. He had introduced a kind of a clarification bill or something about clarifying the Baptist faith and message relating to women pastors, and he's got a video circulating around promoting this thing. He says there are currently 170 women pastors serving in Southern Baptist churches right now. 170.
wow.
And somebody said, well, that's nothing. There's 50,000 Southern Baptist churches. There's not 50,000. They're now under 40,000. But even then, if you're allowing 170 women to serve as pastors when the confession says women can't be pastors, you've disregarded your confession of faith.
Right.
And
Exactly.
if you no longer have any doctrinal unity, you no longer have unity. You have to have unity. You have to have doctrinal unity to work together. Otherwise, why not just work with any Christian group? Why not just say we all love Jesus? It don't matter where, it don't matter if you speak in tongues. It don't matter if you get saved and lost.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you have security or don't have security. It doesn't matter if you have women preachers or men preachers. When you start opening up Pandora's box to anybody can come in, you really lose all continuity. And then pretty soon, every time a denomination goes down this road, it ends up with women preachers and then homosexual preachers.
Absolutely.
That's just history. That's not my opinion.
Yes.
Look at every group. That's where they end up.
Yeah. Look at the Episcopalian, the Lutheran, Methodist, it starts with that first compromise. And once you compromise there, then you're in trouble. But yeah, I am anxious to see if, God forbid, that they do allow Saddleback into the SBC, what guys like Tom Buck does, Tom Askell.
They stay and gripe because it's like we said earlier, some of these guys don't have to do anything but fight. And Wade, ministry doesn't always have to be fighting other people in the ministry.
Yeah.
We don't have to fight the Christian nationalist or the non-Christian nationalist. If you're surrounding yourself by people who don't share your convictions, you're in the wrong circle.
Right. Exactly.
I just, I don't know. You and I have had a great relationship over the years. We don't see eye to eye on everything, but we have enough in common, primarily the gospel. We can put all of our other differences aside and still work together, fellowship together, support missions together. All of that is still there because we do have doctrinal unity on the key elements.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, man, it is already been, I think, about 30 minutes already. Hard to believe. It's been 2 months since we have recorded a podcast, and let's not make it another 2 months.
No, I would like to get back to our every other week schedule.
Yeah, right.
A lot of times we run out of stuff to talk about because we don't want to just get on here and rail on people we don't like, even though that's tempting at times.
Yeah, right. If you guys who are listening would like for us to speak on a certain subject that maybe is concerning to you or interests you, let us know in the comments, and we would certainly consider that, because we do. It does help us to kind of navigate on what to speak on. But anyway, Harold, always a good to join you in a podcast episode. I hope you start feeling better very quickly. You just took another church.
Right. Yeah, I'm back to interim pastor again, which that's primarily what my ministry focuses on, is going into churches that need some leadership, getting them back on track, and then helping them find a permanent pastor. And I am the interim pastor at the First Baptist Church of Roland, Oklahoma.
Wow. And that's not too far from you.
It's about 30 minutes.
Arkansas.
That's about a 30-minute drive. It's just across the line. I live close to the Oklahoma line. So
yeah.
That's where I'll be for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. Well, be praying for Brother Harold and praying for the church there in Roland, and that God would use Harold in a mighty way to revitalize the church and to lead the church into greener pastures as they, in time, search for a full-time pastor for that fellowship there. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. May the Lord bless you and keep you.